So if you're like me and you've ever wondered how the PUC line operations schedules their comings and goings, look no further, because I'm joined by Ryan Pollinuk, Line Operations Supervisor. Give me a little bit of a rundown how things work here, Ryan.
It's very busy. We operate 24 hours a day. We respond to various trouble calls. We have 4 crews. We run a 4-man crew. Each crew has 4 linemen. The service truck is a 2-man crew, and they respond to all trouble calls and anything that goes on that they assess, and then I would adjust if they need a full crew. So how we would lay out our crews is we have 4 lead hands and a 4-man crew. The numbers of these trucks are different trucks, single buckets, double buckets, RBD, boom trucks, dump trucks. What we do is we lay this board out. It's a magnetic board, and we just kind of slot everybody in. And some guys will be on vacation and or sick or on special duties. So we kind of build our crews here, talking with both supervisors and the planners. Once we have a layout of what the crews are designed to do and what they have to do, then we transfer that information to the electronic crew board. We have this electronic crew board to get the message out there because of the PUC with the new building and where our crews are situated. We need to let them know what trucks they have, who they're working with. So we use a color system. A lot happens here at 8 in the morning. The supervisors and the planners were in about 6:30 in the morning getting ready for each day. With this board, it helps us just lay out the day.
So it's a very fluid system then, constantly changing and being updated.
It can change within the minute. I think this actual crew board has been around for over 40 years.
Oh, wow.
And we just can't seem to get rid of it. It actually works really well with kind of seeing the overview of what's going to take place the next day. And jobs require certain trucks, like if crew needs a double bucket, we have 3 double buckets that we'll give those trucks and RBDs. But truck 18 is usually the service truck and the 4 to 12. So this one truck runs from 8 in the morning till midnight, 5 days a week, and then it's on call, that truck, for the whole weekend.
So what would you say is the most challenging aspect of organizing this?
Vacation. We go into our summer months with so many guys, and a lot of our type of work is emergency work. So for instance, there's a car accident or a fire or a transformer that fails in service. We may lose 2 or 3 guys throughout the night. They'll be on sleep time the next day. So we're still trying to run our day-to-day operation, but yet we've lost a few guys. And another thing that affects us is storm damage. So a storm comes through Sault Ste. Marie and we have pockets of power out in various locations. We'll have guys from the day before working, trying to restore power, and guys coming and going because they've been out too long. So they have to go home and get some rest, and then they can come back out. With us getting the supervisor and the planners getting here early, it's around 6:30, 7 o'clock. It helps us get ready for the day.
Now we've migrated a bit from the chaos of the scheduling, and Ryan is taking me over to projects. So Ryan, why don't you give me a rundown kind of what I'm looking at here?
So these are the projects that come down from engineering. So sometimes we could have 2 or 3 projects, or we could have 5 or 6 projects. It varies on the workload that's coming down from engineering. For example, this is Black Road. We're doing a full rebuild on Black Road for the upcoming construction next spring to when they widen the road. So we're in there early, we're doing our work. Work order comes down from engineering. It's always tasked to a supervisor and a planner. In our department, we have 2 planners, 2 supervisors, and 1 manager. So usually the supervisors divide up the work, the projects, and then we slot in the planners to oversee, getting everything, the locates, making sure that we have the material, going to the pre-construction meetings and making sure that we're ready to start these projects. So these are just a typical layout of a project for a lead hand. I would just oversee the project, to help work with the lead hand, remove any of the roadblocks that are stopping them from completing their tasks. The planner knows all the ins and outs of the projects, what's being built in the future, what we're adding to on the project, and sometimes we'll fill this wall up, for instance. So this would be Black Road. We have a smaller project, Welcome, where we're removing some restricted conductor in the rear lots. Kevin is working on that project. He is another one of our lead hands. And Frank is one of the planners assisting him with completing that work. you may see the highlighted part. That's some of the work that's been completed already, so we kind of know where the project's at. Sometimes we have Breton Road over here. It's an underground project, so we have the underground crew working on that right now. So as of right now, we have 3 major projects and then the smaller day-to-day operations that we're trying to carry out.
So I'm here with Ray Valater, who is a senior power line technician. Now, Ray, kind of give me a gist of what you do during the day or what your general responsibilities are.
So essentially the service truck is a 2-man crew. One guy will come up in the morning, they'll get the board. The board has orders on it. Our orders are usually about 3 disconnects in the morning. We essentially do that for electricians. So we'll cut the power off. They'll do their work, we'll come back and we'll get reconnects, and then we'll go reconnect them after that.
So on a job like that with disconnects and things, what sort of safety precautions do the crews take?
So as far as our safety precautions go, when we do disconnects for electricians, we have to make sure that it's off. So we'll usually go do a voltage check at the meter base to make sure that their side, everything's off for them to work on it. As far as safety as a whole for pedestrians, any call we go to, we have it's called a FWR, a field work record. And on our field work record, we have to check off to make sure that everything's safe and all the work's complete. And as far as us arriving on a scene, say if a power line's down or anything like that, we'll have to disconnect it immediately. We follow ESA, which is the Electrical Safety Authority. They'll actually come back and do a spot check on everything we do to make sure that it's done in accordance with ESA.
Awesome. And now what is a typical reason for a disconnect?
Usually they're doing a panel change in the house or a panel upgrade, and with the meter plugged in, it's still live to the panel. So they essentially want the panel off. Sometimes, like your electrical mast is the customer's side. So if you're changing the electrical mast and all the wires in the mast, it's up to an electrician to do that. So if they want to do that, we have to disconnect our lines for them to do that safely.
In the case of like a large-scale power outage in town, what's your protocol for that?
So say on a large-scale power outage, we have a system operator. He's got control over our whole system. If something happened, like a circuit went down or a tree went down on the line and snapped our lines, he would get an alert on the system. He calls us. So we're essentially, as far as the service truck goes, we're first responders to show up and assess the situation. If there's a power outage on a circuit and we can't find it, and it's going to be a long time, we usually try and coordinate with our supervisors. Our supervisors will then try and organize a second service truck or a third one, and everyone patrols the line until we find the problem.
So now I'm joined by Jeff Pirtle, power line technician working in a planner role.
Well, we found the need that when things come down from engineering and come into our department, that then we take all that information, the plans, the work procedures, and we needed to roll that out to the field. So we had planners into that middle role that can then help interpret what engineering needs, and then roll that out to the lead hands and the crews in the field. So they're following the utility standards forum that we need to follow for all our work.
Now, I've heard that you guys are taking big steps in sort of digitizing your materials. You're moving away from the paper aspect of things.
You know, we need to inspect all of them. We do that in 3 different cycles, 1 cycle per year. It was always a very cumbersome in the truck with a lot of paperwork, maps for the whole entire area that we had to cover, filling that out of paperwork when we found a deficiency. So we're trying to work that into a digital mode. So this year we're kind of doing both. We're going to do the paper so we can still conform to the standards, but we're moving into a Clarion program that can then, we've got the GIS on the computer, so he can, in the laptop, he can update the deficiencies he finds in the field, and then we can pull that information off and be able to correct those deficiencies. Kind of eliminate a step, and we can be doing real-time changes in the field. It's key. I mean, in the old paper system, as Ray talked about earlier, they're filling out the field work record. Field work record then goes to engineering. Engineering's doing some work, then it's going down to accounting, and they're making sure they're covering that. So when we can get it all in a digital form, everybody can access it, and we're not going to lose that paper trail.
So Jeff, What would you say is your favorite part of the job?
I think my favorite part is obviously working in crews. Linemen are very close. We trust each other with our lives. I'm an outside guy, so I certainly love working outside. After a certain amount of time in the planner role, you're itching to get back out in the field and stay outside and stay active.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Jeff.
Thanks.
Well, it's a beautiful October morning, and I'm joined here by Kevin Vanderhayden, Powerline Technician. What do your duties sort of include?
My duties as a lead hand include making sure that the crew is working safe, going over the job with the crew, getting them to understand exactly what we're doing, where we want to be at the end of the day, making sure they're wearing all their safety equipment, making sure they're working safely. And then the duties of the linemen are to go up and do the work safely. So what we're doing is we're taking out number 6 conductor solid, which is becoming dangerous for hiking, climbing poles, working around, changing it with a number 2 ACSR, running new lines in, changing poles, upgrading the system to be more efficient and more safe.
Now, what kind of equipment do you guys usually have to bring along for a job like this?
Well, backlot machine we bring out here for the poles. It's a little machine that has wheels that come in. You can get it through nice little fences there and in and out. It can set 40-foot poles, dig our holes. We have a bucket that can go on it, and we can do all our work live back in the back lot. Also works great with restricted wire because we can't climb our poles with restricted wire.
Now, typically, what kind of numbers are we looking at for a crew for a job like this?
We're looking at a minimum of a 4-man crew to work here because normally we have 2 guys hiking up a pole on spurs, unless we're working out of the bucket. But still, you need quite a few guys here because everything has to be hauled in by hand, everything has to be hauled out by hand. So there's no way of carrying a transformer out without having a machine.
Now, is everybody on the crew technically a Powerline technician?
Not everybody. Usually we have at least a minimum of 1 Powerline technician, and then we can work with a couple apprentices and a lead hand, of course.
Now, what do you guys have usually for safety precautions in a job like this?
Safety precautions, what we have is a rescue rope that we bring back with us for guys who are climbing. We practice our pole top rescue twice a year, and that's if somebody gets hurt while they're up a pole. We can have another guy hike up, do our rescue, get the guy down. We of course have our hold offs, all our personal protection we wear. With our backlot machine, we can put on our cover up that we need to use for working safely. One of our steps is we want to get rid of the restricted wire first so that we can climb our poles without having to worry about conductors falling on us. That's what we did here. We got everything set up to pull in our new wire. Now it's safe to climb. We can get up there and do our work without having to worry of anything coming down on us.
So Kevin, how often do you guys replace poles like this?
Normally we would replace a pole if it's been tested and it's not deemed fit to climb. We have 1 pole in this instance here, but being that this is restricted wire, we're changing just about all the poles. New construction, everything is going to be updated, all up to code.
You're talking about the restricted wire. That's the little dangerous guy up in the very top, right?
That's correct.
Now, that's carrying all the power into the houses. That has to be stepped down first. So when you make a change, you guys have to be really careful with that one.
Yes.
Now, and so usually you can see a little bird standing on top. Now they don't ever get hurt, right? Because the big issue is if you ever come across the 2 lines, that's when it makes an arc.
That's correct. And when they're standing on the line, they have no reference to ground, so they don't get electrocuted. Same as when we're working up in the bucket, we have insulated boom that gives us no reference to ground, but still we wear our personal protection like rubber gloves, hard hat, eye protection, FR clothing.
And I guess that's why doing stuff like this is so important, because there's dangers involved, again, with the tree trimming and with poles that aren't as solid as they used to be, the danger of them coming down. So what you guys do here is extremely important.
Especially for kids playing in the backyard.
That's very true. So now I'm here with Greg Barrett. Tell me about what your duties are on an average day.
So on an average day, we would show up at work before the crews arrive. We would figure out the day before what we're going to do on a given day. Generally in the morning we get some last minute call-ins for anything that could crop up, family emergencies, illness. We rejig our crews accordingly and then we roll them out.
Now this is a planned job, right? Like you guys had this, the clients called you up, or you came and had surveyors look at the poles, and you guys know what you're doing here, and this is a planned thing. So what would happen on average, say, if there's an emergency, like a power outage or a storm or a serious issue like that, where you guys haven't really had a chance to survey or plan or do any sort of that groundwork?
So we have a 4 to 12 crew that answers calls after hours. So from midnight till 8 in the morning, they're on call. If there's an emergency after hours or during the day, the service truck or the 4 to 12 guys are the first to respond. They would do an assessment of what's going on, and if they can restore the power or make repairs, they would take care of it themselves. If it's a bigger issue, then they would call the supervisor and give Ryan or I an update. We would then dispatch crews to assist and whatever resources are required to get the power on.
When there aren't any sort of capital projects planned or, God forbid, any natural disasters, what do you guys do on an average day?
So on an average day, basically we have planned work, which is capital projects. What we do also is maintenance work. So if, and we blend that. There's always capital projects in the queue that come from engineering, and that's according to a long-term approved plan that gets approved by the Ontario Energy Board. So we have different roles within our department. Work comes from the engineering department, is received by our planners who organize the work. We resolve the issues so that we can build it effectively. And sometimes that goes back to redesign, as on this project started out as a deteriorated pole project, and then during the planning phase we noticed a restricted wire and we realized that it would be safer to replace the restricted wire first. So that was done in advance, and then the pole replacements were done after. Maintenance projects are things that we have to do plant inspection according to Regulation 2204. So we inspect 1/3 of all our plant on an annual basis. A lot of work arises from that, and that will identify things that we need maintenance on. Other times when we're operating the system, we'll find problems that we can't operate, switches or anything. Those will go on a list, and then we'll go back and maintain those as required.
So what does it take to become a power line technician? I know you guys take apprentices, so prerequisite-wise or education, what are you guys looking at?
In order to become a power line technician, which is a recognized trade, you need to serve an apprenticeship. At PUC, we generally like to have our employees have some sort of post-secondary education. There are programs for colleges in Ontario offer power line technician courses. So generally that's where we go to first. But we will also look at individuals who have an electrician certification or a college designation in an electrical field. Working at PUC has been a very rewarding career. There's always a lot of variety in the line trade. We've got a nice flexible work environment in our department. We work very hard to try and maintain that work-life balance and support our staff in activities and personal pursuits. There's that civic responsibility that I really enjoy. You know, we're here for the ratepayers of PUC to try and work effectively and safely to keep the lights on at all times. We really work well as a team. We've got a lot of great guys that are working in the field every day.
Well, it's good to know the city's in safe hands. Greg, it was a pleasure meeting you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.